Erev Yom Kippur, Tafshin Pei. Let's go. Let's learn one more page, or almost an entire page of Gemara. What's better to do? What would be the better thing to do before Yom Kippur? Learn Torah. The more schusim, the more mitzvahs. That's what we need for our nation, for each and every one. Tanan Hosom, Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis Masechet Shabbos. Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis is Shir Lilu Nishmas of Imoyer Menachem and Akiva Lilu Nishmas Chomi Nochem Ari ben Moshe David Zelig. Tanan Hosom. We learned over there in the Mishnah, a Mishnah in Kelim. Kol Balebatim Shiuron Kerimoinim, which means a kli, any vessel made out of wood, yeah, which is more expensive than cheres, than clay. So Balabatim, a regular person who uses a kli, an owner of a kli, was not for commercial use, for regular use. So if there's a small hole, like the holes we spoke about in previous sugyas, he doesn't yet throw it in the garbage. The Torah tells us that das bnei Adam, the way it's assumed by the Torah, is only if the size of the hole is as big as a rimon, as a pomegranate, then we assume that the person would throw it away, maybe make some kind of abnormal use. It's not a kli anymore. If the hole grew up to be a kazais, rimon, the one of cheres is kazais. Because cheres is cheaper, you throw it in the garbage once it's kazais, the hole. But the one which is a wooden one, the size is rimon. So, okay, in other words, you have a wooden kli, a wooden vase, a wooden bowl for the salad, right? A wooden receptacle of whichever type. If the hole is the size of a rimon, pomegranate, out, it's not a kli anymore. And if you have any tuma that was there, the tuma poofs away, the tuma goes away. Okay? That's very, very simple. That's one of the basic things. Boy Chizkiah. Chizkiah asks the question, Kufi days Amud Beis, more or less in the middle of the page. Please have some. We brought some food for today's a mitzvah to eat, so we brought some food here. Take. Boy Chizkiah. Nikav. Please, 1 second. Yeah. Boy Chizkiah. Nikav kemoitzi zais. What happened if the rimoin, the hole of the size of a rimoin, gradually developed? What does it mean? Nikav kemoitzi zais. Let's say there was a hole the size of one olive. Vesosmoi. The person then completely stuffed it. He corked it. He stuffed it back. Okay. Vesosmoi. V'chozar v'nikav kemoitzi zais. And again, right next to the size of Zay's hole that he restuffed, another hole the size of Kazais developed, Vesosmoy, and again he stuffed it. All the stuffing is new material. Again, what's happening here? Mahu. Question is as follows. Every time the hole was a size less than a rimoin, so the kli is still a kli. And you stuffed it, you refilled it, you fixed it. Then again, a size of kazais, less than a rimoin, you fixed it. Every time you patch it up. And then another one, and every time you patch it up. But hey, wait a second. In no given moment in history, you had the whole of a rimoin. But now, hey, look what happened. All of a sudden, we have an entire size of rimoin. From the accumulation of all the holes, you have a rimoin size of new material. You have a new patch of rimoin. Mahu, that's a very good Blomdisha question. Do we go step by step? And therefore we'd say, hey, there was no one moment in history when there was one big hole of rimoin, so it's still a kli. Or do we say, no, let's look at the big picture. Hey, that's like the salami system, what happened? All of a sudden, all this change happened, right? Look at history. Every time, liberal people, they, right? The Arabs, step by step, what happens until the world is crazy? What's going on over here? You have an entire new material, right, of size of a rimoin. So all in all, you did create altogether a whole of rimoin from the original material, and now you have a patch the size of a rimoin. So maybe now it should be toho. Maybe now it should be pure. Maybe now it should be a non-kli. Do you go step by step, each factor, or do you look at the entire formula together at the total, and then you don't have a kli anymore? It's a whole new thing. That's a question. What does that have to do with our sugya? Omar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is reminding Chizkiah, Rebbe, Shani Salanu, you taught us the following Mishnah, which we saw yesterday. Sandal shenifseko achas meoiznov. You have a sandal, one of the oznaim, one of the sides of the strap was cut off, was torn, the tikna, and you fixed it, then it's still Toma Midras, right? True? Why? Either because you can change it or it's the inner one. Let's leave Rabbi and Rabbanan. Everyone agrees that because of one reason or the other, when you only have one, right? One side of the shoe is out, it's still called a shoe. You can fix it, right? Change it around, and you can still use it. Okay, let's say. Nifseka shniya v'tikna. Oh, now you remember you have one side which is fixed, not so nice. The other side also popped up, also tore, right? And you also fixed it. Then we say, gone, game over, tor mina midras. At that point, we say it's not a shoe anymore. When both sides are torn and restitched, it's already not a shoe anymore. It doesn't have the special tumas midras of the zav, which is avatuma, because it's called a kli, but it's not called a shoe. So that doesn't have the extra tuma of zav of being called avatuma. Aval tome maga midras. It has this magic formula that the kli is touching itself, right? It's not a sandal anymore as a sandal, but it's used. It's 1 second. It's called the kli. So it's kilu the medras, when it stopped being a medras, touched itself. So it's avatuma, touching itself made it rishon latuma, because now it's a kli. It's not a shoe, but it's a door holder, door stopper, I don't know, paper holder, right? 1 second, I'll be with you in a second for your question. And we asked you, Chizkiah, what's the difference? Why did you say that when the first one tore, then we say, nicht gefährlich? It's still called a shoe. Why is it called a shoe? Because the second side of the trap is still going strong, is still held, still good. If so, wait, shnianami kametakna rishoino. When the second one torn, why did we say game over? Why did we say we throw the towel? Why? When the second one tore, the first one is good. The first one, now we switch sides, and the first one is fixed. When the second disaster happened, when the second tear happened, the first one is fixed. So again, it's a similar story to the Rimon. Each one by himself is okay. There was no one moment where the entire sandal, both sides torn. Every time when the one side tore, the other one was still okay. So why do you say that the second time it's kaput, it's all gone? And you told us about it. Famous line. You told us it's not the same. Why? Mamish like here. The first time it's tore, you still have the original form. Remember, what happened over here? Let me start from the beginning. One sunny day, Mr. Reuven bought sandals, Azloto. Sadly, good, nice, strong sandals. What happened later? He became Zav. Oy, oy, oy. Wakes up in the morning with a very disgusting, ugly emission from the Bris Milah. He's a Zav. Oy, oy, oy. So now this sandal is Tome. What kind of Tuma? Super Tuma. Tumas Av. Because that's Mamish sandal. It's Tumas Medres. Then one side of the sandal tore. We say, no, it's still called a shoe. It's still Tome. Then he fixed it. Okay, still Tome. The second one tore. But now we say, Tohar, it's not a shoe anymore. Why? But now he's fixing it. It's a shoe. We say no. Because, as we said with what we call the salami system, slowly there's gradual change. And the shoe that you have now is Ponim Chadoshos, is a completely new shoe with new stitches, with new kshorim, right? Because both sides, both essential, are restitched, that's a whole new shoe. So shoe A, where the Tuma applied, is not shoe B, because now you have two sides that are restitched. And therefore it's called what? It's called Panim Chadoshos, and the Tuma is now, the Tuma doesn't apply. The same logic exactly is with Panim Chadoshos of the Rimoin. Every time separately, if you look microscopically, each stage by itself, true. Yeah, there was never one moment when the kli stopped being a kli. Why? Because really, every time you have enough less than a rimoin, so it's still a kli. But hey, what happened? One, I fixed it. Two, I fixed it. Three, I fixed it. Boop. All of a sudden, three, four zaysim became rimoin. So now I have a whole new patch size of a rimoin, which is a new material. I have new material size of rimoin. So the original kli is not here anymore. Therefore, it's tohoy. Good. Now you better listen to what he said about Rabbi Yochanan. Chizkiah was so impressed with Rabbi. You want to ask? Yeah. Chizkiah was so impressed with Rabbi Yochanan. Listen to this. Kari alei. He said about Rabbi Yochanan, Leis den bar inash. This is not a human being, but what is he, a malach? He was so impressed with the svara. He said, "This is a malach. This is superhuman, as we call it in English." Ika de Amri. Some people say that what he said was ki going dein bar inash. Even in a way, a better compliment. He said, "That's a bar inash. That's a man. He's so knowledgeable and so knows how to connect everything. This is a mensch. This is a man gavra bekula. He knows to connect previous information with a svara and do the whole math over here. This is superhuman, or this is the epitome of what a human being should be." Let's learn before Yom Kippur. Yeah, before Yom Kippur, this is a human being, the one that can learn well. Very good. Omar Abzera, oh, famous, famous, famous. Yeah, please take. Can you pass him the food, please, Jason? Thank you. Yeah, that's for you, Akiva. Omar Abzera, Omar Bar Zimuna. Im Rishoni b'nei Malachim. If the early generations, if we consider them as sons of Malachim, as angels, anu b'nei Anoshim, then we are human beings. Ve'im Rishoni b'nei Anoshim, anu kechamoirim. If the previous generations, if you want to look at them as human beings, then we, comparing to them, are like donkeys. Yeah. In other words, so I've heard, I don't know if it's Semis, one of them Forshim says, first of all, we see what's Yeridas Adoris, right? We see the Yeridas Adoris, we see how we have to look up and realize that people of previous generations were not just higher than us, they were a completely different being. They were not the same thing at all. They were like different creatures. You can't compare a donkey to a UFO. It's like the Avos HaKadoshim, the Tanoim, Amoraim, even Rishonim, they're a different level that just made them be something completely different. And I saw one very nice pshat. I don't remember who says it. Sounds like the Hasidic idea, or maybe it's I don't know. I don't remember who says it. I'm sorry. I forgot who says it. It says something very stark. If we look at the Rishonim like Malachim, then our level is higher. If we realize that the Rishonim were like angels, then we are human beings. But if we think the previous generation were just people, then we are Chamorim. If you don't realize the godless of the Rishonim, it does make you smarter. You have all these modern rabbis and, Chas v'sholem, Mevazah, the Gdolim, the Rishonim, it does make them bigger, it makes them smaller. If you don't realize the godless of people in the Torah and the Gemara, it doesn't mean you're a free thinker. It means you're a free stinker. It means that you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's the that's the going on over here. That's the story over here. When you say donkey, donkeys also have levels. The donkeys of B'chinan ben Doisa and Rabbi Pinchas ben Yoel, they were tzaddikim. Yeah. What are the stories? I don't remember which ones who, but I did look up the Gemaras. Yeah, when I prepared this year. One story is about a donkey that refused to eat food that was not gemeistered. I think that's a Pinchas ben Yoel, I'm not sure, or the other one. That he did not want to eat food that wasn't gemeistered. They tried to clean it for him, the food. They tried to sift it for him. He wouldn't eat until they took meiser. Then the Gemara discusses if you really have to take meiser from animal fodder. I'm not learning halacha now. But the concept was, why? The Mesilas Yesharim says, when a person is holy, the Sviva also becomes holy. That's why Hasidim take shrine from the Rebbe, because everything about him is holy, also the inanimate objects and the animals. The other story is about an animal, the Chamor, that was very, very honest in his business. Yeah, in other words, he would be rented out. The Amoira or the Tana, the Tanoim, would rent him out, right, for money. And if there was any money that wasn't right, he wouldn't leave the renter's house. For example, one time they left on him by mistake a pair of shoes, and he wouldn't move. Why? because he knew that that pair of shoes belongs to Balabais and not to the person that he was working by, to the one who hired him, and not to the real owner. So he wouldn't move. He realized he's about to take something that doesn't belong to him from the owner. So he would stay there until they took off the shoes from his back, and then he went. You see that even animals have some level of spirituality that actually depends on the owner. So if we view the Rishonim like Anoshim, we're not like the holy Chamoirim, we're like Chamoirim. We're like the simple ones. Amadomir Lachamo, very good. Nachon, very good, very good, very good. Back to Koisher, Venoides Yain V'Shemen. Frag the Gemara, Pshita, we said in the Mishnah that the noidos, the jugs, we're talking here about not jugs the way we used to call, we're used to, jugs that are made out of leather. Like a leather, what's the name? There's a leather, like a canteen. Yeah, what? Yes, or wine or oil, like in a leather canteen, and they would tie it on the top. And that you're allowed to tie and untie on Shabbos. Pshita, of course. Yain v'shemen, it's like the bottle cap of the mineral water. Of course, you can do and undo all the time. It's for daily use. It's for every 5 minutes use in the summer. And says Gemara lo tzricha. No, you need to tell me that in the Mishnah. The is leitarti uni. Those notice yain v'shemen have 2 ears. Ears meaning they have 2 openings. They have 2 openings. Yeah, and each opening is tied by a knot. Oh, if so, Ma'adetema, one would argue, maybe when you have 2 ears, you're too lazy. One of them you tie, and only the other one you keep open all the time. Maybe not necessarily laziness, just more convenient. One of them you keep, you keep tied the whole time. The other one to mevatel, and that could be for a long time. It should be also the rabbanon, and maybe only the other one you're going to open and reopen and close all the time. So maybe it should be also, and maybe both of them should be also, because you don't know which one will be mevatel. KML Kamash Malan, we're not concerned about that. Kamash Malan, I guess that the norm by people is to open both, and we're not concerned that one will stay closed all the time for good for a long time in a way that's osir, and therefore we say that it's really mutter to use those canteens of leather. K'deira shel boso. Next case, which the Mishnah allowed, is k'deira shel boso. What's k'deira shel boso? We have a pot full of meat, and on top of it there was some kind of shmata, some kind of cloth that was tied. Yeah, they would tie the top, the lid was something made out of fabric. The fabric would be tied, and you can tie and untie on Shabbos because the k'deira shel boso you use all the time. You serve the family, back to the fridge, back to the table, back to the tanner. That's okay. Pshita. What's the chiddush? Lo itzricha. The isle shalacha. Shalacha means it has a spigot. It has a tap, a faucet. This is a fancy k'deira that looks more like the urn that we have on Shabbos, right? So there's one way to open it from the top. The other way is to somehow take the meat, not the spigot of water. I guess there was another opening on the side. You can open and close and take out the meat or the soup, right? So, one would say, hey, if you tie the top, you make a knot in the top fabric that's in the lid, maybe you leave it there for good. And how you will get the meat in and out? Through the side hole, through the side door of the pot. So maybe you should be concerned. Kamash Malan, we're not concerned. Because it's very normal by people to use both openings, the top and the side, you can tie and untie, no worry. We rely on you that you'll undo it today in order to get out the piece of meat. What did Rabbi Yaakov say? What did he say? He said that you have an animal. The animal he's resting there, sitting in the pen, in the animal pen, in the cow shed. You're allowed to tie in front of the animal the rope that stops it from walking out. Yeah, the rope that's like the gate of where the animal lives, you're allowed to leave it there. Pshita, of course, what's the chiddush? Clearly, the animal goes in and out every day, right? So clearly, I can tie and untie because it's meant for daily use. That kind of kesher is okay. Answers the Gemara, lo itzricha. This letarti, so Rashi brings 2 explanations. I'll tell you the explanation. It's more mechudesh. Rashi says the Mishnah wants to be mechudesh the animal has two straps. That animal pen or shed has two straps, one on top of the other. Oh, then Maudatema, I would have thought, Chada Minayu Bituli Mavtil, one of them you're going to leave there. And the animal would somehow skip over or go below, yeah, the one that still exists there. And therefore, there's a chashash, you're going to leave it there for a long time. Should be also the Abonon. Kamash Malan, we're not concerned about that. Amar B'Yosef, Amar B'Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Halacha K'Blezer ben Yaakov. Halacha K'Blezer ben Yaakov, what did he say? That you're allowed to tie the animals, the rope at the entrance to the animal home. Yeah, you're allowed to strap it there, to tie it there, to tie. That's okay, no problem. We're not concerned you're going to leave it there for a long time. So halacha is like a B'Lezer ben Yaakov, as opposed to Tanakama. Mala Abaye, this is a classical Abaye question, appears many times. Halacha, Michla de Pligi. If he said halacha is like B'Lezer ben Yaakov, are you coming to tell me that they argue? Are you telling me Chachamim argued and Chachamim don't allow you to tie it to the pen? They're saying that maybe there is a chashash. You leave that strap there for good, and only the other strap you'll tie in and out, on and off. Are they machmir and concerned? And all the belezer is a mekel? Because halacha is a kablezer. Sounds like it's an argument, right? If there's no argument, you can't halacha like him, right? Who cares? Yeah, basically, Rav Yosef answers Abaye, what do you care? At the end of the day, Allah Chutzik B'Lezer ben Yaakov. So why should I care whether Rabbanon argue or not? At the end of the day, Allah is B'Lezer ben Yaakov, that it's permitted. And I'm learning halacha. So at the end of the day, halachically, it's okay to do it. Who cares whether there is another opinion out there that may or may not agree? At the end of the day, halacha is that it's okay to do it. Amarle, this Abaye repeats many times. The Gemara that we're learning should be just like a song. Sing a song, it's not always the sensible words. You sing a song, la la la, pa pa pa, ma ma ma, do do do, right? You sing a song, all very nice. The Gemara is not a song. The Gemara is something that you have to understand. Meaning, we're not just learning halacha here, we're learning the Gemara. We're learning the process. Yeah, it's machloikes, lomdes, tzveidinim. People are wrong for saying that they don't need to learn Gemara. Yeah, one of the Talmidim told me, half the page is irrelevant. So what do you mean irrelevant? It's all about all kinds of Havamin, it's about Refuah. I said, no. Every word of Gemara is relevant. Every word of Gemara is Hashem's mind. Every word of Gemara, whether it's to do with the ancients Refuahs or Havamin or something that we don't understand, it's all holy. Some of it applies to Allah, and some of it doesn't apply to Allah. But the Gemara is not some song you're singing. Every bit of Gemara you have to understand. The Ma'aseh Yosef doesn't look like Yosef gave him an answer, but this is the Musar we can learn from Abaye. Weiter. Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Thank you very, very much. Zog the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah. Says the Mishnah. Koishrin, we're still about Kshorim. We're still creating Kesher with the Kadosh Baruch Hu here. Says the Mishnah, Koishrin Dli Bepiskia. Let's say you go to draw water from the well, okay? And because the water system is not working, you have to go to the well and draw water with a bucket. Now, the bucket, all of a sudden, hey, what happened to the bucket's rope? I don't know, darling. It's gone. The dog ate it. I don't know. Yeah. So now, what do? You're allowed to take the piskia, which we learned in previous Mishnah, is a belt. You can take a belt and tie it to the bucket. Avaloi bechevel. You're not allowed to do it with a rope, which means you are in a situation where you have to basically let the you let the chevel down the well, and you need something to hold it with. The chevel is gone. You can't tie a new chevel. You can only tie a belt. Why a belt? A belt, your gartel, your belt, is something you're going to use today, tonight. You're going to use it pretty soon. And therefore, because we know you're not going to be mevatelit, we know that you're not going to leave it there for a long time. You're going surely to remove it and untie it ASAP, because you need to wear the belt. Memele, we are safe and secure, and we know this is something you can tie to the dli, to the bucket, and surely you will not leave it there for too long. it's surely going to be a 1 day business, or maybe less than a week, according to other shittas, and that's it. Soon you're going to use it, no problem. If you're using a rope, even if you promise yourself, yeah, that chevel is only for 1 day, how do you know? A chevel is good for the dli. You may leave it there for life, for good, for eternity. And therefore, at least with the Rabbanon, you should be choishesh that it's going to be shel kayomo, right? And that's going to be terrible. That could be nisa doraisa. That's why it's not allowed. Yeah, because chevel may stay there permanently. It's a rope. It's good. There's no other use that can do with it. I don't wear chevel on me. Now, Rabbi Yehuda matir. That's very interesting. Rabbi Yehuda matir sounds like Rabbi Yehuda allows you to do what? Rabbi Yehuda allows you to take the chevel, tie it to the dli, and that's good. The Gemara is going to ask why. Seemingly, that's what Rabbi Yehuda says. Now, Klal Omar Rabbi Yehuda gives you a rule: Kol kesher she'en shel kayoma en chayovin olav. Any kesher that is not a kesher shel kayoma, any kesher that is not there for a long time, you're not chayiv on it. Everyone seems to agree to that. Let's see what the Gemara says. Like the Gemara, Tevel demai. What kind of rope are we talking about? The Tanakama says, don't do it, don't use a regular rope. And Rabbi Yehuda says, go ahead and use it, no problem. What kind of rope is that? In leima de alma. If you want to tell me, we're talking here about regular chevel, regular rope, a regular rope that can stay there for a long time. Rabbi Yehuda matin. Rabbi Yehuda allows you to do that. Kesher shel kayamahu. How could Rabbi Yehuda allow such a thing? It's extremely likely that you leave it there for a long time. You know how long? Forever. There will be an isel de oraisa. How can Rabbi Yehuda allow that? A regular chevel with a dli, perfect shidduch, perfect match. In the gefen. They'll never get divorced. Good. That's going to be a kesher shel kayama. You're going to go to Gehenim because it's isel de oraisa. How can Rabbi Yehuda allow that? Ela, therefore, must be chevel de gardi. What's chevel de gardi? Chevel de gardi is a kind of rope that is used by the weavers. The weavers, for whichever reason, they need to use a rope, I think to measure, but I'm not sure. It doesn't matter. The gardi, let's say you're a gardi, you're a weaver, or your next door neighbor is a weaver, and he has that special chevel of gardi, right? So now, that chevel will not stay there for too long, because your friend, the gardi, will knock on your door and say, excuse me, remember you borrowed for me my chevel de gardi to tie your bucket. I need it for work. Like I have to get up tomorrow morning to work in the weaving, in the loom, so I need it back, right? Chevel de gardi won't stay there for too long, and yet now the question is reversed. Why did Rabbanon not allow it? Lememra, that is to tell me the Rabbanon Savri gazrin an chevel de gardi atu chevel de alma. Rabbanon believe because chevel of gardi, as opposed to the belt, chevel de gardi looks and feels the same as chevel, any other chevel. So there's a gzera. Don't use chevel de gardi, although you know you're going to untie it quickly. So as of itself should be okay, because you're going to get mixed up with regular chevel, which does stay there forever. So the chachamim say, hey, we're careful when it comes to kosher. We're not playing games. Don't use the chevel de gardi. Chevel de gardi and chevel non-gardi, pretty much the same. So chevel de gardi, if you use that tomorrow, you're gonna or next Shabbos, you know what you'll use? A regular chevel. So they made a gzera one because of the other. Typical gzera. Yeah. The Rabbi Yehuda Soba lo gazrina. Rabbi Yehuda here seems to be more mekel. Let's summarize the story. If you have a chevel that's a regular chevel, that's meant to stay there, that chevel is no other tafkid in its life. It will stay there forever. Of course, it's osir lekula alma. Chevel de gardi is a chevel that's similar to the regular one, but does have a different function. Chevel de gardi, I will untie it ASAP. Sunday, Monday, surely it's going to get out of. It's going to go back to work by the weaving, by the loom. But Chachamim say, hey, the two are too similar. Let's be goizel not to use chevel de gardi atu, lest you come to use a regular one. And Rabbi Yehuda is a lenient one. He says, no, we're not goizer. I'm not concerned. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, chevel de gardi is chevel de gardi, and chevel the regular is regular, and the two will never meet. They're okay. You don't have to do the gzera. Okay. But if that, by the way, let's just remember, when it comes to the belt, everyone allows it. Why? Because the belt looks different. The belt has two milas. First of all, I'm going to untie it very quickly. I'm going to need my belt soon enough, right? Either today or tomorrow, I'll need the belt. And the belt doesn't look like a chevel. A belt is nice, leather, right? Or gartel, or woman's belt, something nice, elegant. It's different. So of course there's no gzera. If I use the belt, I will not come to use the chevel, right? Everyone agrees to that. The one machlokes is chevel de gardi, which will be untied technically, but maybe I shouldn't use it because if I use chevel de gardi, I'll come to use regular chevel. So gzera de rabbanon, which only rabbanon believe. Rabbi Yehuda is mekel. Rabbi Yehuda is cool about it. He says no. Hevel the Gardi, if you use it, go gesundheit, you can use it. We're not concerned you'll come to use a regular Hevel. But if that's the story, now we're in a big mess. Why? Raminu. Let's see a Raminu from another brisa. You know, whenever the Gemara says Rami, Raminu means from one Mishnah to another Mishnah, or Mishnah to brisa, or Posuk to Posuk. Raminu. Look at the following Mishnah about a similar case. Hevel dli shenifsak. A chevel dli, you have, you are lowering down your chevel with a dli, and the chevel, the rope of the bucket, in the middle of it, it tore completely. It tore, poofed away. It tore. What do? Middle of Shabbos. What do I need to do? I need to use it again. I need water for Shalosh Shudas. I need water for, what do I do in the middle of Shabbos? What can you do? Two separate solutions. Says Tanakama, lo yekoishro yela oinvoy. You're not allowed to tie it in any shape or form, only do aniva. You're allowed to somehow do the aniva like this, the aniva, which means some kind of loop, right? Yeah, you're allowed to create one side like a round loop and put the other one inside the loop, because that's not called kesher at all. It's aniva, and that is okay according to Tanakama. And Tanakama here are lenient. They say you are allowed to do an aniva, as opposed to who? Rabbi Yehuda is now machmir. What does he say? Rabbi Yehuda, no, you can't do aniva. What shall you do? Chorich olav pundia or piskia, v'vat shelo yanvenu. Says Rabbi Yehuda as follows. It's very easy. Take the two sides of the rope. Let's say my fingers are two sides of the rope. Put them one on top of the other, and tie them both with a punda, with a belt. Then it's okay. You take the two together, you don't tie them. They're just attached like that, and wrap around them, which is not even kshira, what? The belt, which for sure you're going to use. But aniva you're not allowed to do. Ooh, look what's happening here. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda was a lenient one. Here, Rabbi Yehuda is a strict one. Why? Let me explain. In our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda was the Mekel one. He said, no problem. Chevel de Galdi, you're not going to mix with Chevel of other people, regular. And here, Rabbi Yehuda says, don't do Aniva. You know why not? Gzeira. If you do Aniva, you may come to do regular Kesher. And Rabbanon say, no, we're cool, we're lenient, we're Mekel. Just because you do aniva, go ahead, do the aniva. Aniva, you'll never get mixed up with kesher, with real kesher. Why is it that here Rabbanon are strict and there Rabbanon are lenient, and vice versa? Answers the Gemara, it's all good. The Rabbanon and the Rabbanon lo kasha. Let's take them one by one. We are in the second wide line in Maseches Shabbos, Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. The Rabbanon and the Rabbanon lo kasha. No difficulty between one statement of Rabbanon to the other statement of Rabbanon. Why? Chevel bechevel michlaf, aniva bekshir lo michlafa. I'm so happy that we have it all clear now. Why? I told you, chevel bechevel michlaf. The chevel of the gardi and the chevel of the non-gardi, michlaf, they're so similar, you may mix up, you may get confused between one and the other. In Shabbos Parshas Bereshis, you're going to use the Chevel de Gardi, and your neighbor the Gardi will wake up early in the morning, knocking on your door, hey, get that out, untie it now, I need it back to work. That's nice. But if you use the Chevel de Gardi Parshas Bereshis, Parshas Noach, you use the regular Chevel, because they look exactly the same, or quite similar, right? Therefore, there, we have a need to be geyser. But aniva b'kshira lo michlefa. But if you do aniva, you know where we're lenient with aniva? Of course we're lenient. Because aniva and kshira are absolutely different. Visibly, visually, evidently different. If I do aniva in Shabbos Parshas Bereshis, I will not do kshira in Shabbos Parshas Noach, because aniva and kshira are physically different. So therefore, there's no chashash of one over the other. Yeah, aniva is mamish different. Oh, I do aniva every Shabbos morning. I have a different time. I go to chaniche. Yeah, so what? Aniva. I do the aniva. I'll never get mixed up with other kshorim. Aniva is very, very different by nature, physically, technically, to kshira. Therefore, yes, what's your problem? Here we're strict because there is room to be goyzer, and here we're lenient because there's no room to be goyzer. It's not a cookie cutter. Each Inyan linyanai, right? What about Rabbi Yehuda? The Rabbi Yehuda lo kasha either. Why? Rabbi Yehuda, why was he lenient over here with the Gardi, and he was so strict about Aniva? No, says the Gemara. Hosam lo mishum de michlef Aniva b'kshira. You got it all wrong. You think Rabbi Yehuda was strict on Gzeros, and he was goizer, don't do Aniva of the rope of the Dli, lest you get confused with Kshira. That's not the reason. Ela aniva gufa kshira. Whoa, we just threw a big bomb over here. Boom, boom, boom. Rabbi Yehuda says it's not a gzera. Rabbi Yehuda is koifer in everything we said so far. We said so far that aniva is not at all a kesher, and you know what it says in Mishnah Berurah, you can do one aniva over another, three anivas one on top of the other. Aniva is not a kesher. Says Rabbi Yehuda, no, I think aniva is kesher doraisa. Therefore, it's not a gzera. When it comes to gzeras, I'm a lenient man. I'm not looking for gzeras. But aniva, you know, I was machmir. I believe aniva is kshira d'oraisa. So why should you do it? What? Very good. What? That's a good question. But he believes that aniva, for whichever reason, I'll tell you why. Maybe it's a good question. Why? I don't know. To be honest with you, Erev Yom Kippur, I'm not lying to you. I don't know. However, Akiva, I could find, I think, a rather easy reason, because aniva can stay for a very long time. It's true that the shape of aniva is different to the classical kesher. True. But aniva, you can have your aniva staying there for 10 years. If you're a lazy man, you don't have koich to tie your tie every Shabbos. What do? Leave it tied and just adjust it every Shabbos to Noach Shmois Ve'ikra, right? Yeah. So maybe Rabbi Yehuda says, listen, anything that stays forever and functions like that, I see it's a kesher. Maybe that's the reason. But the Lamaisa, there's no stira. So let's summarize. When you have a deli that you want to reconnect with the belt, kosher lemehadrin, because you know that you'll remove it and untie it ASAP, you need the belt. And there's no gzera, because it doesn't look like a regular hevel. Hevel and belt hopefully look very different, right? I hope your belt is a bit more elegant. You know who wears hevel in Avelus, in time of Tzor, in Tainis. Mordechai Tzadik wore it, yeah, or the people in Ramabet, in the Matzmot, yeah, they wear the hevel, yeah. A rope. You don't wear a rope as a belt unless you're a novel. Now, what about a regular? The what? Yeah, sash. Yeah, right. Now, one second, we don't have time. Now, what about the regular chevel? The regular chevel you're not allowed to use because that's for sure, sir. That's doraisa. You're going to leave it there for good. Now, what's the mechloikes? One case, chevel of gardi. Chevel de gardi, you will remove it ASAP, but it looks like a regular chevel. Chachamim say the look alike, the smell alike, the feel alike. You're going to get confused. And Rabbi says, no, I'm not such a machmir. You're asking about aniva? I'm not machmir in gzeres derabonon. I'm not machmir in gzeres. It's a different machlekes. I think aniva is kshira in the doraisa level, but I'm not Mr. Machmir in gzeros. I'm a mekel. It's all good. I wish everybody chasima toivo. We should be davening to Hashem. The Am Yisrael will have peace and should be able to learn Torah. Menachas Menucha with Mashiach coming very soon. Thank you so much, all of you. Slicha Mechila. And Atzlocha B'chol Inyonim. Thank you very, very much for participation. People back home in Torah Anytime. Thank you, Tzvi. And thank you to all of us who watch us in Torah Anytime and in YouTube. Have a good year. Chasima Tova to everybody.